reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network.
So let's go ahead and say that to preface Elite Specializations, you will not have access to them until you're level 80.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as people understand that this is an endgame progression for your character, you can't start at level 1 as a Dragonhunter.
No. And it's certainly not a requirement to play as a Dragonhunter. If you like playing as a Guardian, play as a Guardian.
Exactly.
Try the elites. Try Dragonhunter, try Chronomancer, Tempest, Reaper, and the ones we don't know the name of yet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Herald. We do know Herald.
Right.
Good old Herald.
So let me go ahead and ask you this, because you main Mesmer.
Mm-hmm.
Did you enjoy playing Chronomancer?
Very much so. Certainly not initially, as mentioned on our most recent episode.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a little bit to find its spot for me. I'm not sure how else to say that really. Its barrier of entry was higher than I actually anticipated, which I should have expected because the barrier of entry for Mesmer itself is that much higher, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But once you find it, it is really fun to play and certainly unique, certainly different from anything else I had played. I remember, like you had said in our episode, that you sort of equated Chronomancer towards Warrior. I wasn't 100% sure on that. And I think it's because, like Mesmer doesn't really have an opposite anywhere else or an equal anywhere else. It's its own thing.
Yes.
Its elite is kind of the same way.
Yeah, it's really not like a mishmash of another profession when you throw in Chronomancer.
Unless you consider Chronomancer from Guild Wars 1.
This is true.
Which no one got to play.
So, when you're playing in a combat scenario, how do you think you could best describe the Chronomancer at its core?
Timing, which sounds very obvious, given that it's and punny, pun intended. Right. It is very much, if you have enough illusions out and you have enough things off cooldown, will it make enough bang for the fight to use your F5 shatter at that point, or use your elite or your heal or any of the high cooldown utilities in your bar, and then fire off your F5, shatter things, and be able to do those again. And if you can time that right, it is phenomenal and feels pretty sweet, but it's finding that balance.
But you would say that it's generally really fun to play?
Oh, yeah. I wish I could do it tomorrow. Shield. Shield's awesome. Love Shield. Shield on a Mesmer. Shield, shield, shield.
And do you think that there's a certain type of Mesmer player that would not enjoy Chronomancer?
I would have to assume that is the case. I would think that if you're happy with Mesmer as it is, then I certainly don't feel like you should feel like you have to play a Chronomancer. I don't think it's ever going to be Elite Professions or GTFO.
Right.
It's whatever you are good at playing. And if you are good at playing Mesmer with the core specializations, don't worry. If you're not crazy about the Elite or it's not clicking for you, don't worry about it. I mean, it's super fun if you like it.
Yeah, but if it's not for you, definitely don't worry about being left behind.
And don't feel like you're not doing something right. It's just an option.
Do you feel that way about the Reaper as well? Or do you feel like Reaper is something that's needed to help the Necromancer along towards being more productive, for lack of a better term?
I didn't play Reaper quite as much over the beta weekend, but I would say that regular Necro, vanilla Necro, even when I would build for, say, a Shroud Dancer, I found that I wasn't going into Shroud all that much. With the Reaper, I was in Shroud as soon as I could manage it for any length of time because it was so much fun and felt so effective. If you're interested more in the Shroud play versus minion play, I would say that definitely Reaper is more the avenue to go in.
And I think we had talked about this previously, but you were saying that a lot of people felt like the Greatsword wasn't up to par when it comes to the Reaper.
Yeah, and I think they've even had posts with changes to that already on the official forums, have they not? I haven't looked at them, to be honest. But yeah, a lot of people felt that the slowness was fine if they did more damage.
Mm-hmm.
But in World versus World and PvP, the slowness was too slow. Like, it did not give you the opportunity to actually land hits because other players can act that much faster than AI can.
Right.
They're going to see this big long windup coming and go, oh, hell no, and get out of the way. In which case, you've just wasted something that should be big bang, but also has a long cooldown. And so you're out of commission for an inordinate amount of time.
So you think like if they just speed it up a smidge to appease people in PvP and World versus World, people will be relatively happy with it?
I know a lot of people are very pro splitting PvP versus PvE.
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% a fan of that because I don't necessarily want to have to learn two different sets of tooltips because that's me and I get confused easily.
And it makes a lot more work for the developers.
It does. However, if it was just a speed factor and all you were doing was speeding up the attacks for PvP or World versus World, that could possibly work. And like I said, there were notes on the official forums about this, about the Reaper, but I haven't read them yet, so who knows what they've done. I liked the speed of the Greatsword. If it were faster, I also wouldn't complain, to be honest.
And the shouts felt good. I mean, they're shouts, they're kind of gimme skills, but...
Yeah, much like what you were saying with Tempest, where the overloads felt like the thing for the elite, and shouts were, here, have some utilities. Shroud, Reaper Shroud, is the thing, and here, have some shouts.
So really, it's kind of the same sort of approach that they had on Tempest, wherein you spend a lot of your time overloading and making sure that people have the ability to take advantage of all the support you can offer.
Mm-hmm.
And then your shouts are just kind of gravy on top because it's like, here, have a fire field. Or here, I'm going to chill now, so it makes life a little bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely say that. Now, I don't recall this necessarily, but the Necro or Reaper shouts have an activation time. Do the Tempests?
Not really. It's pretty instant.
I remember listening to, I think it was Relics of War with Grybach talking about the fact that shouts shouldn't have an activation time, and I believe he was talking about the Reaper.
Shouts should never have an activation time. It's a shout.
Yes. So if I'm remembering correctly, and now I feel bad if I haven't, I might be talking out the side of my face, I agree with that assessment. I never really noticed it, but the shouts were just kind of there, and mostly I was having fun with, yay, Shroud, look at me go, spin.
That's a lot of what I was doing with the Tempest, too. It was like, I'm a fire tornado!
Look at me go!
Which, let me go ahead and explain a little bit about the Tempest. The big changes are that when you've been in an attunement for a certain amount of time, they will be able to be overloaded. So with fire, for example, you turn into like a fire tornado sort of thing. And when it's done, it just kind of sits where you had ended the duration of the overload, and you're able to do just basically added DPS. A lot of the changes to Tempest were very much support-based in that you were trying to create more fire fields, or give people auras, or extend might that's on yourself to people that are nearby as well, or push enemies in a certain direction, or grant swiftness.
Yes.
So there was a lot of like, here, let me give you some boons, and hey, it does me some good too, so win-win. I liked it. I think that it was extremely fun. I love support professions. That's what I enjoy most of all. So for me, the Tempest is the elementalist that I always wanted to play.
And if you like support, is Guardian better than Dragonhunter then?
Yes.
Jumping into other professions here, but...
For the Dragonhunter, it's like it's taking away most of the support that a Guardian usually offers.
Mm-hmm. So it's the opposite.
Yeah, with an elementalist, you don't have to share all of your special stuff, like all of your boons and stuff like that. You don't really get to share it with the group. But as a Tempest, you're spreading out as much love as possible. Whereas the Dragonhunter is the opposite of Guardian, who shares all the boons.
Mm-hmm.
In that you're not giving boons to pretty much anybody. The Dragonhunter was like a tanky ranger.
Mm-hmm.
And the longbow felt lacking.
Now, have you played much warrior with longbow?
A little bit.
Ranger longbow, Dragonhunter longbow, warrior longbow. Differences, go.
Really, the way that it goes is that the Dragonhunter is kind of a combination between the warrior and ranger, in that it's got kind of these attacks that will pin down, but then it also has like the barrage that you get on ranger as well. And it's okay. It doesn't feel super effective, even though it is kind of a good marriage between the two. But it just doesn't feel like it does a lot.
Okay. It was nice that Guardian now had a auto attack with a 1200 range option, because prior to that, the auto attack on staff is only 900.
Mm-hmm.
And it has 2 of the 5 skills can do 1200, but not all of them. And the one is just a might stack. It doesn't really...
Right, but that added usability of being able to pull mobs from far away with your auto attack is very nice.
Mm-hmm.
The traps felt really fun, but it was lacking in that it was cast at your feet rather than being ground targeting.
Okay.
And I didn't like that with the Revenant enemies. They can just bounce right past the trap, like whatever, with their shadow stepping.
So thieves would also be in the same boat?
Yes.
Okay.
So as far as PvP elements towards it, I would say that Dragonhunter with longbow and traps is just kind of a waste of time.
Oh, can you imagine if traps were targeted? Just imagine a world where traps were still targeted.
Yeah.
And if you were observant enough, note not me, but someone was observant enough, and you saw where they started their shadow stepping from and plopped a trap down.
That would be pretty amazing.
Would that not be amazing? I would never be able to pull that off, but that would be phenomenal if someone could. It would be like, yeah, look at that go.
It would be pretty amazing if something like that happened.
Oh, well. They're not targetable, so meh.
Well, I talked a little bit about the traps, but they weren't great when it came towards being up against Revenant enemies, and I guess if you were going through with a thief as well, as far as PvP, that would not be a good idea.
But PvE, you enjoyed them a great deal.
In PvE, they were really fun when I wasn't against the smoke scale.
What about World versus World, where you could just lay them as traps and then kind of sit back and wait?
You could, but I didn't get a chance to try it out in World versus World. I would like to see if, like with a ranger trap, when you lay it down, you just have this little kind of white circle on the ground so that you know where your trap is. With the Dragonhunter trap, it's like this big blue crazy circle thing. Like,
can enemies see that?
I don't know. I needed to have tested that and I didn't. So apologies, dear listener.
The one listener.
Yes, just the one. As far as traits go with the Dragonhunter, it didn't feel like you were going to have a really great time trying to find the traits that you wanted to use if you were going to go into the Dragonhunter line as being the mandatory.
Okay.
I couldn't find a whole lot of synergy with other things. That could be the fact that I am not the best guardian, but I tried.
Hey, did you like the beta weekend?
I really had a great time.
Me too.
Thanks for watching the video, everybody. Don't forget to check out all the other podcasts at MMOreporter.com or by clicking on any of the links here. And please check out our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MMOreporter. Thanks, everyone, and see you in game.